everyone, and welcome back to the Deserts and Garden podcast. I'm Nathan, and this is my wife, Mia.
And on this podcast, we share the truths and realities of marriage, faith, and our life together with God's guidance every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're actually going to be talking about something that me and I just heard for the first time, which is behavior is caught and not taught.
Yeah, that was cute saying.
Yeah, right? We've all heard the saying from our parents, maybe, those who are kind of in charge of us or above us, do as I say, not as I do. But to be honest, that really has never worked.
Yeah, so if we want our future children to be in the Word, to be praying, to be exercising self-control, not back-talking, setting boundaries, and living healthy lives, then we need to be modeling that now, not just hoping that they turn out right when the time comes.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to break it into three sections. We'll start off with, why leading by example matters. Mm-hmm. We're going to back that up with some biblical wisdom, to really kind of push it along.
As we do.
Right. And then in the middle, we're going to talk about, the small daily habits that really shape the future generation.
Yeah, so like what we do.
Right. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with, what it looks like practically for us right now.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
All right, let's start with the foundation. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it.
Yeah, notice it says train, meaning walk it out in front of them. It doesn't say lecture a child into oblivion, and that is the way that they will go. That doesn't work. Doesn't
Absolutely
work
not.
On your spouse, doesn't work on you, ain't gonna work on your children.
Right, and we can actually turn to Jesus on this one because Jesus did this with his disciples.
Yeah.
In his life as he walked here on earth, he taught us how to live. He showed up in front of them. He prayed in front of them. He, fasted, and then, he served. His entire life was an example of what we as Christians are supposed to be.
Yeah, and I mean, that applies to marriage too. If we want our kids to respect their fathers, then ladies, we need to show them what that looks like. If I'm constantly rolling my eyes or being dismissive, talking down to you, yelling at you, disrespecting you, guess what? They'll think that that's normal.
Yeah, right. No pressure. Little eyes everywhere, right? But, I mean, seriously, we're always shaping the culture of our future home. And,
yeah.
Like I said, whether we realize it or not.
I mean, adding a caveat to that is, we don't have kids yet.
Oh, true. We don't.
We don't have kids yet.
We have nieces and nephews, though.
We do.
And we do babysit a ton.
Yeah, but my point in that was, this is not just for the couple that has children. This isn't just for the couple that's around children or that has nieces and nephews. This is for you're shaping the sphere around you. There are eyes around you. So, the point in this isn't just, if I don't have kids and I don't need to listen to this podcast today. No, actually, we are a child of God. And so whether or not you can have children, you want to have children, if you want your children to act godly, then you have to act godly. If you want godly children, act like one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So moving on from there, one of the things that we're doing about this in real time is we have 4 daily habits that we've committed to, and then we also have 4 weekly habits. So these came off of our Weekend to Remember, which we've talked about several times on the podcast. When we were there, they actually also mentioned that we need to be the people that we want our kids to be today. So
Absolutely.
When we were at our date night that Saturday, I said to you, one of the things that I wanted to do moving forward was really, really, really commit to something that we were doing consistently. I've done Holy 40, we've tried 75 Hard, which is hard. So essentially we came up with this Timothy 48 challenge, which is 48 days. We pick 4 daily habits, we pick 4 weekly habits. So there's 8 habits total, and we do them for 48 days, and then eventually after the 48 days we might change them depending on what season we're in. So that was a lot. You don't have to do that, but we're going to share what we do. So our daily habits are, number 1, walking 10,000 steps a day, because our goal is to be more active, and we've tried the working out thing. Maybe in the next 48 days, that'll be something that we're able to accomplish. But for now, 10,000 steps a day, that is something that we are able to attain more easily. And by more easily, I mean, I definitely only have hit it one time. But I've come close. I'm well above my average before we started this was 2,000 to 3,000, and my new average is like 7 to 8. So
let's go.
That's progress. Like, that's another thing I want to say is it's about rhythms. It's not about perfection.
Yeah.
So the second habit that we do is reading the Bible every single day. So we do the Bible in a Year app. Obviously, just allowing scripture into our life every single day, allowing that to shape us. And then our third habit for the day is reading for 15 minutes, which I think I've said this before. I'm not a reader. I read so slow. But we have Spotify, so we listen to audiobooks. And typically those are books on marriage, Christian living, parenting books. A lot of what we read will then bleed into the podcast. And then our fourth habit is prayer. So we talked about that also in another episode. So definitely check those out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, on top of that, once per week we do, for
if
the
that
other
wasn't
things.
enough.
Yeah, like in case it wasn't enough.
It's going to go into what we do on a weekly basis.
Not as long, though. One thing that we do is we play an hour of piano.
Yeah.
And, for me, like, that's actually extremely helpful because, like, I'm not a reader. And I'm not very much, I don't like to just sit around. Like, I like to do things.
Yeah.
So actually playing the piano and actually doing something with my hands actually makes me feel pretty good. We also do at least an hour a week as a couples Bible study. That way we can get into the Word in depth and actually so we can also,
more of a deep dive
than
what we do on a daily basis.
And then we can absolutely grow closer together as a couple.
Yeah.
We also do this podcast, which we love. Yeah, right. And it helps us reflect again on our own walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
But hopefully it also encourages others.
Yeah, that's our prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally we do a weekly memory verse. So that way God's word is in our minds every single day.
Yeah.
And we test out at the end of each week.
We test every week, but the memory verse is also kind of a daily thing because we have to memorize it throughout the week. So that's something we're on every day. So these habits, like I said, it's not about perfection, and it's more about being consistent, creating that rhythm. We do have different levels. Like, for instance, with the steps, it's like 2,500 is the bare minimum.
Yeah, you have to hit that.
5,000 is level 2, and then 10,000 is perfection, which, as I said, that was perfect once. Anyway, if we waited until we were pregnant or until our kids are old enough to notice, like for me, like we're already behind. Yeah. I mean, obviously we don't have kids, so for us it's like start today. If you do have kids though, it is never too late. Like, start now. Like, start building habits, start becoming who you want your children to be, even if they are older. It's like, stop putting it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to wake up one day and just suddenly be disciplined. Like, you're not going to wake up and just become a godly parent.
Yeah.
All these things are just micro habits and small things that you have to do, and you have to be intentional in them.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, could you establish a habit in 9 months? Probably could. But for all of the people that are like, oh, well, I have 9 months. Like, during that 9 months, you're not starting habits. Like, unless you're an extremely disciplined person and you're just like, hey, I'm going to actually change my entire personality while I'm, like, coursed with hormones or while my wife's coursed with hormones. Yeah. Like, probably not going to happen. So that's why for us it's so important now to be reading books about parenting, boundaries with kids, which was like where this whole today's podcast came from. We're reading Boundaries with Kids. Do we have kids? No. But we want to have kids. We want to grow our family. So that's something we're starting with now. Even that is like an intentional decision we made. Yeah,
and I mean, speaking of that book, Boundaries with Kids, even though it says boundaries with kids, it's not just about having boundaries with your kids. It's also, having boundaries with your parents, having boundaries with those around you.
Yeah.
And you can get good insight out of that book.
Yeah. I love the Boundary series, all their spinoffs. 100% recommend them. But
absolutely.
Let's get into some real practical advice for you guys. If you're listening to this and thinking like, okay, well, I want to lead by example. Where do I start? Y'all are doing too much. Here are 3 simple things that you could do. Number 1 is pick one habit. You don't need 4, you don't need 8, you don't have to do them for 48 days. Just pick one habit that you want your kids to have and start doing it yourself. If you want them to pray, let them catch you praying. If you want them to read their Bible every day, open yours. Second tip, speak life into your spouse. If you want your kids to see a healthy marriage, If you want them to have a healthy marriage, start showing them a healthy marriage. Respect your husband. Be kind to your husband. Encourage your husband. If you want your children to see a healthy marriage, you have to model it. Don't wait for Instagram, TikTok, social media, school to teach your children what it means to be a respectful wife, a good husband, what a healthy marriage looks like. Like, you should be modeling that for them. And then lastly, stop waiting for the perfect time. There's not a perfect time. There's not a perfect season to start. If God has put it on your heart to do something, move on that. You're not too busy. It's not going to be easier at another point. It's not going to be more important, and then you're going to have the motivation. Like, none of this is motivation. We don't do this because every day I feel like waking up and reading my Bible and doing 15 minutes and doing 10,000. Like, I don't wake up just wanting to do those things. It's about discipline.
Absolutely. And, like, the thing is, like, if you mess up, which you're probably going to.
You
like,
will.
I mean, we mess up all the time. We own it.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to own it. And then, apologize, move on from it. And then, especially if you have little ones, show them what humility looks like.
Yeah.
That's
grace.
Really, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of leading, too.
Yeah. So, quick recap. Our kids will catch who we are more than they'll listen to what we say. So, leading by example starts today. That starts now. Not someday, today. Even if you don't have kids.
Right, and we're in this with you. Making daily choices that align with the future. We want that for our kids as well.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect. It's really just, like we said, about being intentional.
Yeah, so let us know down below in the comments what you guys are going to start, maybe what you guys are already doing. Let us know if you like the podcast so far, if you're looking for us to talk about something tomorrow. We love feedback from you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for listening to the Deserts and Garden podcast. Until next time, walk in love.
Live with purpose.
And trust God in every desert and garden.
See ya.